What's up and welcome back to the neighborhood. On this episode, we are going to introduce the games that we are bringing to our Game Swap month. Welcome to the podcast where three longtime friends talk about video games from the average gamer's perspective. My name is Andrew Kimball.
I'm Dylan Wren.
And I'm Aubrey Summer.
And we are your friendly neighborhood gamers.
So this month, we're going to be taking our game swap idea that we did a little while ago and blowing it out into an entire month. What that means is we will introduce the games because we don't know. We haven't told each other what games we're bringing to this yet. We're going to introduce our games on this episode, and then over the next 3 weeks of this month, we will do episodes on each person's game. So tonight, this episode that we're recording will be the introduction of what games we will be required to play for this month, and also kind of our thoughts and feelings about that, and maybe some little bit of structuring of like once we know what games everybody has decided on, maybe we'll decide like which one goes first and which one can go last and things like that. So that is what we are doing on this episode. Who do you guys think should go first?
Well, oh glorious leader, why not you?
Yeah, why don't you tell us what we have to play?
Yeah, honestly, I was planning on going first, but then I realized I had kind of read that whole blurb and neither of you had spoken yet. And I was like, your voices need to, like, I don't want to just keep going. Yeah, so like Dylan and Aubrey are both here for this. Yeah, exactly. So, yes.
Our voice in the intro.
True. The game that I am bringing to this Game Swap month.
Wait. I'm going to call an audible.
Okay.
I think we should all guess what game before you reveal.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm going to guess Gears Tactics.
Okay.
Huh. Well, I have no idea.
That's kind of how I feel about guessing your game too.
Yeah.
Okay. I will guess Metroid Prime.
That's on streaming
Switch.
somewhere? Just like on it, or you have to purchase it?
You
Do you have a physical cartridge?
No, they just put out you might be thinking of Metroid Dread.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Metroid Dread.
Metroid Dread. I have that one. One, I could pass around to you guys. That could be a potential option. That's the like 2D one that came out, like a couple years ago now at this point? Or was it? Yeah. No, Metroid Prime is the GameCube game that they did a remaster of it last year, and I want to play that, but I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah, I was like, did they add GameCube games to the like expansion on Switch? I was like, I might actually get that now.
I was going to say, that'd be sick.
I'd play a bunch of GameCube games again. I don't have nostalgia for like older Nintendo stuff, but GameCube, oh yeah.
God, it's Alien Isolation all over again.
So I will tell you, Dylan, Gears Tactics is on my list of potential games.
Yeah.
And I can see why you would throw that out as your guess, because I do mention it quite often as a game that I have enjoyed and nobody else has played. But for this, I tried to find something with a bit more overlap between the two of you. And so I settled on Lost in Random.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's the one that kind of looks
I've heard
like
the name.
Double Fine-ish.
No idea.
It looks, like so. What is that? Psychonauts kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very Tim Burton inspired.
Yeah.
And then it's all, the world is like built around dice. Dice are kind of like the deities in this world, and like there are 6 different zones or worlds you go to, I think, and each one is like a side of the dice. So like there's 1, 2, there, and like I think The higher the number, the more like wealthy I think like those towns or whatever are. And so you play a girl named Even, and her sister Odd gets kidnapped.
That's a cute concept.
Yep.
And you have to go rescue her. And so there's a lot of like dialogue and characters and choices and stuff like that. But then there's also some combat where you're doing sort of a blend between like active combat and some, it's not quite turn-based. I guess it's pretty active combat, except you're getting abilities and stuff through cards. And so there's kind of like a simpler deck building, like card kind of mechanic that you're doing in tandem with the more active combat. I played it when it first came out and I never finished it. So I'm a little rusty around the edges trying to remember what happened. But yeah, now it's on Game Pass. I feel like you may have picked it up because we were planning on, like, when it was still new, we had talked about doing something on it for the podcast, but just never did.
Yeah.
But I thought between the aesthetic and the YouTube being big D&D dice collectors and stuff, I thought the aesthetic and the idea and the card system and everything and the kind of indie vibes of it seemed like a pretty good cross between both of your interests.
Yeah. It's one that's been on my like backlog for a while. Because it got good reviews, I think, when it came out. I think it was getting like 8s and 9s.
It's got like a 9 out of 10 on Steam, at least right now.
Yeah. So, like, I knew it was good. It was just one that I forget what I was playing at the time. I just never got around to it. And then the longer it gets away from it, the less I am likely to pick it up. But this is a good excuse to like actually go do that. So
yeah, and I think I'll probably hop back into it as well a little bit, just so I can refresh myself for the episode, because I'm pretty sure I just like fell off of it. I didn't really dislike. There were some things about it that, you know, getting into the game was like, oh, I'd like to see them improve on this if they do another crack at this kind of thing. But overall, yeah, pretty solid experience, and like Aubrey is getting a kick out of, you know, the sisters named Even and Odd. There's a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of creativity in the writing coming from their like concept.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I like it.
Yeah, the art style is giving me like Coraline meets, I guess, board game or something. Like, I don't know. I can't decide like what the other part of it is, but it's giving me that very like you said, Tim Burton.
I know the name of the studio that like did Coraline and Paranorman and the Box Trolls, and I cannot think of it. But yeah, they have a very specific aesthetic that it feels like this pulled from, that like kind of creepy, cute.
Yeah. Well, and the story that you kind of described reminds me of like a graphic novel called Die, D-I-E, that is based off of, it's like an RPG thing, and it's like the world is a D20, and so each like number on the D20 has like a different.
I feel like I've heard of that. Yeah, maybe you have told me about it, but
yeah,
that sounds familiar. So what, based on what little you know about it or what you've just now looked up and seen, do you think that you're going to vibe with this game? Do you think you're going to enjoy it, or do you think this is going to be a chore?
I think as long as the gameplay clicks, I'll enjoy it. That's kind of the biggest determining factor. And I can't even be like, as long as it's a gameplay style I enjoy, because even then I've played games that are like games I've played before, and it just didn't quite strike the right rhythm. But I foresee myself having a better time with this than I did with, oh my God, I'm so bad with names right now. Sunset Overdrive. Oh my God.
I guess maybe the way I should have phrased the question is like, are you excited or like looking forward to jumping into this, or are you kind of like the opposite?
Like Dylan, I'm glad to have an excuse to play it.
Well, and it's one too that I can't remember if it requires, like, it came out when 2021, I think, from what I remember.
Yes. September 10th, 2021.
It may not even require like an install on like a Series X. It could just be like a Xbox One sort of thing where I can put it on my external hard drive and not have to like delete things. So, but yeah,
it's
no, I'm
probably also only not like, I can't imagine it's like 50 gigs or anything.
But I'm looking forward to like trying it out and jumping into it because it seems like it combines a lot of things that I like some semi deck building, semi board game, like references, that sort of thing. So I could see it being fun. And like I said, I know it got good reviews. So like, I don't think all of those people are crazy. Like there's probably a reason it got pretty decent reviews when it came out.
So I guess as far as structuring, do we want to announce all of our games and then kind of talk about how far into the game we need to play, or do we want to do that as we're like, do we want to decide that now for this game and then move on?
I guess we should decide, are we going to give points a little like farther into the game because we have a little more time than we had for the last game swap, or are we going to try and keep it similar since we're going to do full episodes versus...
I guess that's a good reason to announce all the games first, so we can kind of see like what's on our plate.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're all like smaller experiences, then sure, maybe we could justify like, justify like getting a little deeper into it. But Dylan, you're shaking your head. I guess we should guess. What do we think Dylan's game is, Aubrey?
Probably went with something on Game Pass. So that eliminates... The Resident Evil games aren't on Game Pass, huh?
2
Some
and
of them
3 are.
Yeah, I thought he might make us do like a spooky game, but we just came off of our like Halloween month, right before this. So we probably would have played most of those already.
Maybe he's going to make us play Mass Effect 3.
3, huh?
I wouldn't dump Andrew into 3.
That definitely would make him fall in love with the franchise.
No.
It's interesting because it's got he's trying to find something that both you and I haven't played. So like a Mass Effect would be great if it was just he and I doing this, but he knows you've played through a lot of those. He shook his head when I was talking about smaller experiences. And so that's making me feel like he's going to pick like Persona 5 or some nonsense. But I think that just came off of Game Pass.
That was going to be my pick if it was still on Game Pass.
Trying to think like what other long games. I'll go with Like a Dragon. That would be my guess.
I'm gonna guess one of the Yakuza games.
That is Like a Dragon. Yeah. It's Yakuza Like a Dragon. Yeah,
you were both right. It's Yakuza Like a Dragon.
I was like, how many long games has Dylan played that he doesn't like shut up about, that he thinks are really good and wants more people to play? And I'm like,
yeah.
It's either Persona 5 or Like a Dragon.
Yep. Yeah, so it is Yakuza Like a Dragon. I have not beaten this game yet because it is so long. But also, there's just so many little side things that you can do in the game. And I feel, I really like the game. I think it's a lot of fun. I love the characters in it. But then also, I feel like it has crossover with the both of you, kind of like Andrew was saying, where it's like there are a lot of aspects of it that feel kind of like a goofy slice of life anime that I could see Aubrey being really into. And then there's a lot of like just like fun like turn-based combat gameplay stuff that I can see Andrew kind of like getting into. And so I was like, yeah, you know what, this seems like a fun one to like throw out there into. And I couldn't remember if Andrew had actually started it or not. I know you had talked about like, oh yeah, I want to try that out or play that, but I couldn't remember if you started it.
Yeah, it's one of those where I had toyed around with playing some of the older Yakuza games, but I don't know if it's just like the aesthetic or if it was just the fact that there were so many of them with convoluted titles and stuff that I just kind of never tried to parse out that series. Then Like a Dragon came out as like kind of a restart, like a good jumping in point, and they changed up the gameplay and new protagonist and stuff. And then it got really good reviews, but it was that same thing of everybody talking about it being such a long experience that I was like, well, I'm not ready to start that now, and I'm not ready. And it's not my favorite setting in games. Like if somebody says here's a 100-hour fantasy RPG, I'm like, I can't wait to just sink into that. Whereas this is like not quite as appealing, but I have a feeling once I start it, I could see myself just continuing to play beyond the game swap month, because it is a game that I think has a lot that will appeal to me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the fun part about it too, is like, yes, it is set in sort of like modern day Japan, but also Ichiban is the protagonist, and he, like, this happens immediately. So he was in jail for like 18 years and then gets out of it. And like his entire thing is like he went into jail when he was like basically just a kid. And so he was like, he just remembers like Dragon Quest and that sort of thing. And so like everything he envisions as like a fantasy RPG sort of thing. So
yeah.
Is there driving in this game?
I think you can like drive a bike as like a mini game for fun, but it's like it reminds me of the meme of like the Avengers protect the world, and then like Spider-Man protects New York, and then Daredevil micromanages the shit out of like 1 or 2 blocks. And it's basically like that. You in this game, you're kind of just like one pretty condensed area of one city in Japan. So
yeah, it's not open world like a Grand Theft Auto or anything.
No, like it's all just kind of like walking around, and like occasionally you'll run into like random other Yakuza guys walking around or thugs on the street that'll like that can attack you, but you can also just run away. That was the other reason, is like I've played some of the older Yakuza, and like what's the other one?
Judgment?
Yes.
The Lost Judgment games, yeah.
And like those, it's all like button mashy like fighting combo game. Whereas this,
it's like a beat 'em up.
This is much more just like, nope, it's kind of like a fun little turn-based RPG thing. So I liked the combat in this game, and also how easy it was to just not do it if you didn't feel like doing it. So
I am intrigued.
It'll be fun to come out the other side of this and beat it before you do.
Yeah.
Well, you're the only person on this podcast who finishes games.
Except Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, except Baldur's Gate.
I mean, there are exceptions to every rule.
Yeah, I almost picked Baldur's Gate as my game, because I knew all 3 of us had it. And I was like, we'll just do another episode where Andrew has to play through
the rest of the game.
The rest of the game.
Get to the end of Act 2.
Yeah. And then for our next game swap,
Act 3.
Baldur's Gate again, Act 3.
Oh, all right. So now the most challenging guess. We have a little bit of a cheat potentially, because like a week ago when we were kicking this idea around, Aubrey sent us a message and asked if Dylan had access to the like Game Boy Advance games on the Switch Online.
Yeah, but I said no. So
yeah, maybe she changed it. I said I could add you to my family plan if we needed to. So I have no idea if she went that route, like Game Boy Advance. Like I remember like a handful of games that I played on Game Boy Advance.
Is that Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game a Game Boy Advance game?
No, I don't think so. And also, if it is it like
not the remake, the old one?
Well, I mean, but would it have been added to like the online collection over? I mean, I have no idea.
my knowledge of Game Boy Advance games is like Fire Red and the Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle Earth game, and that's it.
Fire Red was the Game Boy, not even Game Boy Advance. Like, I think it got a Game Boy Advance release, but it was originally Game Boy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think maybe I have the Advance release or something, because I have whatever the remake is of the first game.
Yeah,
on Game Boy Advance.
Yeah,
and I didn't purchase it myself. My friend who wanted me to play a Pokemon game bought it for me.
Remember playing the Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings game on my Game Boy Advance, and I remember playing I think the Battle Network games were originally on Game Boy Advance, and then they ported them to DS, which is where I played them more. But like my memory of handheld games in that era is so blurred. It's like, did I play that on Game Boy Advance? Did I play that on DS? Did I play that on my Game Boy Color? Like, it's all. So I guess just put us out of our misery. And
well, I'm gonna guess Spiritfarer. I'm gonna say that.
She pivoted.
She was like, "Oh, Dylan doesn't have access to this thing. I'll just make them play a game I talk about all the time."
So you're wrong, Dylan. I am gonna find a way for you to play this. You guys are playing Pokemon Red Rescue Team, which was released for the Game Boy Advance the same time as Pokemon Blue Rescue Team was released on the DS. And so if we cannot get you access to Red Rescue Team, I still have a copy of Blue Rescue Team. And you can play it on that, because they're functionally the same game.
Why would they release one for the Game Boy Advance and one for the DS?
I have no idea.
That's a fantastic question.
Maybe
we know why these games aren't big.
Yeah, I have no idea. So, yeah, I was thinking about the game option. I got it in my car after our weekly game night. I was looking for a YouTube video to listen to on my drive home because I have YouTube Premium, so I can just put my phone to sleep and it'll play like video essays and stuff while I'm driving, which is why I have to have unlimited data on my cell phone. And I saw a video from Nintendo that was like, oh, Game Boy Advance games now on the Switch. And I was like, okay, interesting. Yeah, like, let's see what it is. And it was literally just a trailer for Pokemon Red Rescue Team. The theme started playing, and a sense of childhood joy that I have not felt in a while filled my heart. And
I don't know if you want us to play it, though, because we're going to not have those feelings of childhood joy.
Oh, come on. It's a Pokemon roguelike where you are a Pokemon.
I was going to say, known Pokemon haters, Andrew and I.
But this one's different. This is them actually doing like something different with the concept. So rather than just like, oh, you know, you're a trainer, you get your starter Pokemon, you go to the zone, you go to the next zone, you go to the next zone, and like you've played one, you played them all. In this one, you are a human who's been turned into a Pokemon, and you have to figure out why the heck that happened.
Well, I'm looking at this too, and it's the people that make Danganronpa. They're the people that make this game, or that made this game.
I know. It's got like surprisingly good writing. So some things I'm curious to find out. At the beginning of the game, you take a personality quiz, and that determines the Pokemon that you will be.
Oh, boy.
Interesting.
So when it came out, I was only familiar with first-gen Pokemon because, you know, that's when we were into it as kids. So when I got a Skitty, which I'd never heard of, I was like, well, this is kind of weird, but okay.
Does it give you like any of the 151, or are there like 5 options?
There's a specific list. I want to say it's 12, like 12 for boys and 12 for girls, with like some overlap, but some don't overlap. Like, I think if you say you're a boy, you can't get a Skitty because it's a little pink cat, but Skitty is the best Pokemon to be in this game.
Is that like a fact, or is that just your opinion?
Well, when I was looking it up to make sure I answered the questions right to get it, it was pretty widely regarded on the Pokemon Wikipedia, because Skitty gets Attract, which charms them to you, Sleep, which puts them to sleep, and Double Slap, which lets you hit up to 4 times. So in this game, you can link moves together with certain items, and so you can put them to sleep and then hit them 4 times in your single turn. It's turn-based combat, like most Pokemon games. You go into randomly generated dungeons in order to fulfill missions as the rescue team. And then in the overworld, there is a plot happening while you guys you and your friend try and do good things and figure out why you were turned into a human.
Turned into a Pokemon?
From a human into a Pokemon, yeah.
Right.
So you're rescuing
other Pokemon.
Okay.
So there are a variety of missions that you do. Like, you can go in, you can escort a Pokemon like into the dungeon to a certain point to like find somebody else, You can go in and rescue somebody. You can go in and retrieve items for other Pokemon. And then you gain access to progressively more challenging areas. Different like types of Pokemon spawn in those areas. And then while you're fighting the wild Pokemon that are out there, some of them are like, oh, hey, you're really strong. I like you. Can I join your team? And then they'll join your team and you can bring them with you on missions, and you can have up to a crew of 4 as you go through. And then behind that all is what I feel is the strongest story that any Pokemon game has put together. Which is not saying hard, much.
Right?
Zing!
Bam! I fully agree with that. But yeah. If we actually play this game, we're going to have to actually play a real Pokemon game, because I feel like we have too many actual Pokemon fans in the audience that will be very upset if the only real Pokemon experience we have is Mystery Dungeon.
Well, they can get over it. And also, who knows what Aubrey will make us do next game swap. So
it's true.
I like this because
we're all going to buy Dreamcasts. And
yeah. No. I have 3 of them. It's fine.
This is sort of the idea behind this, of like we're trying out games that we would probably never play otherwise.
Yeah.
The only difference is that Dylan and I kind of eased into this one with like, it's games that they've mentioned like wanting to check out at some point, and then Aubrey's like, no, you're gonna play this old Pokemon game because that's what I want you to play and that's what I want to talk about, which is fine. We'll just next time we'll make her play Dark Souls or something
because I want to play it, and I'm down for anything. I'll try anything once. And so also there's a fairly limited window of games that I have played that you all have not. So
it's fair, yes.
Yep. That is true.
So now that we have our games, we need to decide how much of these games we need to play for the swap, and then order them probably based on that. The just gut feeling right now, I'm thinking we probably are going to end up going Pokemon first, Lost in Random, then Like a Dragon. I don't know if you guys feel differently about that.
That feels about right.
Because Lost in Random is actually longer than I thought it would be based on just its kind of like indie/AA vibes. So with that being said, how much of these games do we need to play? Aubrey, if we're doing Pokemon first, how far into Pokemon do we need to go?
So I was kind of looking over the main story and seeing, because my experience is kind of colored by playing it mostly when I was a kid, I don't have a strong idea of exactly how long this takes. But I feel like with adult focus and attention, the goal is to get to where you meet Ninetales.
Okay, well, how long to beat has Pokemon Mystery Dungeon at 19 hours for the main story?
Mm-hmm.
So when do we meet Ninetales? Like halfway through?
Yeah, you made us play like
a quarter of the way through? Or is it 18 hours of a 19-hour game?
My understanding is that it's a little bit over halfway.
Well, I've just upped how many chapters of Yakuza Like a Dragon you guys are playing. If I'm going to have to play 10 hours of Pokemon...
I mean, that is why we're recording this in August, so...
Yeah, we are giving ourselves time to actually play these games versus... I guess technically we had a bit of time for the last one, but not like officially.
I do kind of agree that we should probably play more than we did for our initial month because we're giving them full episodes.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're going, like, last time we were trying to get to, like, just have a vibe of the game, right?
Right.
This time I think it is good to, like, say, like, hey, try to get to this story point so that we can at least kind of talk about the story up until that point, which I feel like is pretty
another point that's earlier in the game that we could do is when you meet the Pokemon Xatu, Xatu, and he's the one that gives you, he's the one that gives you the information that eventually leads you to Ninetales, and the up to Ninetales part has you traveling through, I want to say like maybe 3 or 4 dungeons, and they're each about not
how
more
many
than
dungeons
10
are in
floors
the
each.
game?
I mean, a lot, but you don't have to play through all of them. So there are some that are like kind of story based that you go to, and some that are kind of optional and you can just run missions through. So it's just a matter of how many, and I can't remember this, but how many side like missions it makes you do before you get to the next story beat is kind of the sort of stumped version. So if we get to the part with Xatu where he kind of reveals that information and we feel like, okay, yeah, like this is good, or it's like, I don't feel like I know enough of the story to like really talk about it, let's push it to Ninetales, we can. And then, or if you guys get to Xatu and are like, I'm having a bad time, you can just tell me how it ends, then we can do that too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to push to the Ninetales point. Since we have a little bit more of lead time, I think that's doable.
Yeah.
It's
and
not
we've got
that
time.
will let you guys
Terrible.
fight a couple of bosses too to get to there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited about doing something out of my gaming comfort zone, so I'm willing to push through and see how it goes.
Yeah.
So that seems like a good point for that one. Lost in Random is broken up into the worlds like I was talking about. There's 6 worlds, so I'm thinking if you get through like world 3, I just looked it up how long to beat, says it's like a 12.5-hour game. So
theoretically we just play through 10 to 12 hours of that game.
Getting to Ninetales takes 12 hours, then maybe we just beat Lost in Random.
I mean, I think I could see maybe if you guys are enjoying it, you keep going. But I think once you've played, because each world is a little bit like has some different problem happening. And so it's like, it'd be good to see a variety of them. But I think once you've seen like half of them, I think that'd be good for us to discuss the game in depth. And then, if you love it, want to keep playing, by all means. But I think that's adequate for this experiment.
Sounds fair.
So we've got Meet Ninetales in
Red
Rescue Team, and then we've got play through World 3 and Lost in Random. Dylan, how are we going to do the 90-hour JRPG?
Yeah. Well, and I'm trying to, because there are 15 chapters in the game.
But I'm assuming that they're not all equal length, because I know like Final Fantasy, they're not.
I was going to say, I think the first 2 or 3 chapters are mostly cutscenes.
Sounds about right.
Feels accurate.
I would say at least getting to the point in the story where you can change your character's jobs, which I think happens in chapter 5, so that you can swap around their play style. Basically the job is okay, how do I want this character to play? It's their class. That gives you the ability to figure out okay, how does this character play? I think at that point in the story as well, you've got access to a full party of 4 characters. So
my impression of this as a Japanese Grand Theft Auto is just totally off base.
Yes.
Yes and no. Kind of yes.
That was Sleeping Dogs. That was literally Japanese Grand Theft Auto. Or maybe it was China. I can't sound ignorant now, but it was it was exactly like a GTA clone where you get in your car, drive around the open world.
Yeah.
Except it had karaoke and some other mini games and stuff. But
yeah, I would say get to at least chapter 5 where you can change your characters. But if that is only actually 4 hours into the game, then maybe do 12.
Okay, then we can reassess.
Yeah, do 12 hours or whatever. Play through chapter 6 or whatever. Because some of it too, I think, is really dependent on how much of the screw around stuff you do. Like there's a lot of like little side questy like mini game type of things. Like I don't know, maybe you want to take your character's karaoke to a karaoke bar and like do that for like 2 hours. I don't know. So like chapter 5-ish, I would say, where you can like swap around their jobs so that you can kind of get a better feel of like the depth of the combat system. If you feel like it, you don't have to at all change their jobs, but like having that option I think is good. And that happens in chapter 5. So
I like it.
And Sleeping Dogs took place in Hong Kong. So
Not China.
Yeah, no. I think when Sleeping Dogs came out, it was not China. I don't actually know that though.
It came out in 2012.
Yeah, when did Great Britain give Hong Kong back to China officially?
I think it's still independent, technically.
Yeah.
Cut all this out. Let's comment on geopolitical stuff.
I was going to say, now we all sound dumb together. So
I was homeschooled.
Now we can't play Black Myth Wukong, damn it. So
yeah, they're not going to stop me from talking about COVID. What a weird world the video game industry has. Well, we're really dating when we're recording this, aren't we?
Yeah. That's a thing that no one will care about in a week.
All right, so you said chapter 5, and then what? Like if we get there quickly, then maybe keep on playing a bit.
Yeah, like because some of how quickly you get there is dependent on how much of the like extra stuff you decide to do. Like, are you going to run around and do a bunch of mini games? Maybe. So
I probably will.
Yeah, like if you've played it for like 10, 12 hours by the time you unlock the jobs, then it's kind of like, yeah, maybe like, screw around with that a little bit and stop playing it if you don't want to play it anymore. But, if you don't do as much of that stuff as you could and you get there after like 4 hours, it's like, yeah, well, maybe keep playing it, try it out some more. Theoretically,
play it at least as much as you played Pokemon is what you're trying to say.
Basically, as long as we have to play Pokemon for 12 hours, you might as well try to play this for 12 hours. So
fair is fair. All right. So the first week we will be talking about Pokemon Red Rescue Team. The second week we'll be talking about Lost in Random. And the final week of this game swap month, we will be talking about Yakuza Like a Dragon. Not Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is now the whole like new series is called Like a Dragon. But
or the other two, like a Dragon games.
Oh yeah,
like
they did Ishin.
The one set in Ishin and The Man Who Erased His Name.
Yeah,
so this is just Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yeah, this was the beginning of the like new era of Yakuza games.
Yes.
So, how you guys feeling now that the games are out there? We have a bit of a plan. I'm looking, like you were saying with Lost in Random, I think I'm looking forward to an excuse to finally install and try Yakuza. Like it's one that I always see there and I'm like, yeah, at some point I'm going to try that, just not right now. And so now it's like, well, right now. And I think I'll probably end up liking it once we're in there. Pokemon, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I think that it's like going to be, I think it's just going to be missing like that childhood element for me. But maybe I'll get into it and like really vibe with playing something completely out of my wheelhouse for a little while. We'll see.
Yeah.
I did just now pull up the Game Boy Advance like list on the Switch, and there are some games on there that I was like, oh, they have this. I might hop into that as well. So if it could be enough to just do that to like get me to engage with the Nintendo online stuff that I don't really engage with that often, but I pay for. So
yeah. I don't pay for it, so I'm going to figure out how to get on Andrew's family plan, I guess.
I should be able to. I already have a family plan, and I think you can have up to like, I don't know, 5 people or something, and I don't have that many people on there, so.
Yeah.
And if we can't get you on there, I have Blue Rescue Team on my DS.
You can play it on a pink DS.
My Coral Pink DS Lite.
Well, I guess we could see what cart is, or the cart looks like, because I could. It might work just on my 2DS just natively. So, but yeah, I'm interested to see it because like that is an old, I feel like, roguelike. Because when did Red Rescue Team even come out? Like that was in the early
that was during the crossover. So
2000s, right?
Yeah, like
I was going to say like 04, 05 is when I had my DS.
Because I'm trying to think
06.
back to like when I first started hearing about roguelikes. I think it was like FTL and like some of those that were some of the first ones that I heard about. And I want to say those were like in the 2010s, you know? So this is a rogue, like a game calling itself a roguelike at least, you know, 5, 6, 7 years before I was really aware of roguelikes. So it's kind of like, oh, interesting. Like I'd be interested to see what they kind of do with this. I'm not expecting, I'm with Andrew in that, like, I think there is a lot of your love for this game that is probably nostalgia and time and place and like the memories of childhood that I'm going to get in there and be like, okay, this is a Pokemon game, a thing I have no nostalgia for. So, but you know, I think it'll be interesting to like sort of play through. And then, like I said, I'm looking forward to Lost in Random and an excuse to reinstall Like a Dragon and like play some more of that to mess around and see if I can start a new save potentially.
I'm excited for all three. Obviously, I'm replaying it now that it's on the Switch. So I restarted that the other night and have been enjoying myself as I go through it again. I'm like, I've seen memes and stuff from Yakuza, and I've seen clips, and I've seen like the Hot Wheels racing or whatever scene that's in that. I don't know if it's in Like a Dragon or in a different one, but
yeah.
So I'm tickled at the prospect of it and glad that there's no driving in it. So that will will make it much more accessible for me.
All the citizens of that world are glad that there's no driving in it as well.
I was gonna say, like, if there is driving, it is, I as far as I know, solely minigame territory where you can completely ignore it if you don't feel like doing it.
I think that's how they all are. They had like kart games and stuff in them in previous ones, but
yeah.
And then Lost in Random, honestly, not that I've ever played like Psychonauts, but it does. I'm intrigued to head back into something that has kind of that sort of, said with all like the love in the world, but as like a AA kind of energy to it. Like I find those so endearing. Obviously, I love indie games, and so something in that kind of in between. Again, it's like a back to the childhood thing with like Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy of like, you just picked it up at Walmart or at the game store or whatever because you saw the cover and it looked interesting and you couldn't get on your phone and Google it and see what the reviews were like. So yeah, I'm excited for all three. I'm intrigued.
Yep.
Cool. Well, listener, let us know what your thoughts are on this experiment this first week and the games that we're playing, if you've played them and if you enjoyed them, or if you think that we're in for a rough time. You can chat with us about it in our Discord.
Hopefully we've already had the rough time by the time you're chatting with us.
Yeah, exactly. We can say, you are right. We we powered through.
Quite the time. Wait until our episode.
But that is not it for this episode. I have prepared a game to close this thing out. You guys want to move into that?
Sure.
Nah.
All right. Well, Aubrey and I are going to move into the closing game for this episode.
I win!
All right, Aubrey, let's you versus you. Dylan has left the call. No.
What a
so
hater.
I threw together a game that I am calling...
Looking like a Tuesday.
I'm calling it They're Positively Negative.
Oh,
and
interesting.
What I did was I found some negative user reviews from Metacritic. And you guys are going to have to guess the games based on the reviews.
I assume these are all like positive games, like games that are liked, or is it just negative user reviews for any kind of game?
No, I don't know that I intentionally did that, but they all are positive.
Yeah.
And
most people, like, user score of like 7+.
Yeah. And I tried to pick reviews that weren't like obvious about the game, but I didn't really
The Witcher 3 sucks. I can't believe Geralt.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't sort them really in any particular way, so it may, this could go quick or it could take forever. We'll see.
Yeah.
I didn't put a ton of effort into like, okay, the easiest one is last or whatever, but I did try to just pick ones that I thought wouldn't immediately give it away. So, with that being said, we'll keep the scoring simple. If you guess it, you get a point. If you guess it first. And then I have 3 reviews for each game, and I have 5 games. So, are you ready, contestants?
I mean, lately my mind is just a steel trap when it comes to video game names, so I think I've got this on lock.
Perfect. All right. First review. It's a 4 out of 10 by Mr. Sano. Devs trying to persuade...
Some restraint.
Yeah. Devs trying to persuade us that broken combat and movement mechanics are game features. I died more times falling from cliffs than from bosses, which are all the same. Game has absolute trash quest system with no tracking. If you don't use guides, you know blank about what is going on. Game is okay, but overrated AF.
Elden Ring.
Yes.
Is it Elden Ring? That was my first thought, actually, too.
So Elden Ring, the lowest scores I found were 4 out of 10.
Nice.
So even they were like, yeah, it's good enough that I'm not just going to give it a 1 or a 0 and move on. Like, it is an okay game.
As we move through this, you'll realize that this isn't a place where people of high intelligence come to share their thoughts necessarily. So
what were the other 2 reviews you had?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read them because that's half the fun of this. Another 4 out of 10 by Rero with a 3. I don't know. The game is frankly weak. Can I start with the cons that outweigh the pros? Empty open world copying mobs from Dark Souls. Although this is a new universe and game, it is very difficult to follow the path planned by the developers because if you find the boss later, you will be too strong for him and will kill him the first time. An open world is not suitable for this genre quests, as always. In the games of this studio are rubbish. If in DS they could be completed intuitively, then 0.1% of players will pass without guides. You probably need to get into the head of Babadzaki to find out where the quest character is standing this time. There are few good bosses. That's all one sentence. 8 bosses come to mind. And it's funny to even call the rest bosses lack of a normal local plot and the presence of global blank about gods and aliens advantages of the game plus beautiful location sea of various interesting weapons and spells, 8 good bosses, and I especially like the capital. Unfortunately, this is the only location that could impress me.
Does
4 out of 10.
Does Bruno Mars is gay? 4 out of 10 on your grammar, buddy. Holy cow.
Yeah, you can.
That was rough. I kind of assume that maybe this person is not English as first language.
Just say that's the only benefit of the doubt you can give them is that maybe English isn't their first language.
Babadzaki? Is that what they called Miyazaki?
Babadzaki? Yeah.
Ooh.
Is that like the Baba Yaga?
And then the last review I had was another 4 out of 10 by Salmonella.
Oh.
A pun.
Actually, I think I grabbed an extra review for this one. Bonus. Overrated AF. Very simple and repetitive combat compared to the likes of Neo. It has lore, but no gripping story. And the Shakespearean is honestly just too tryharding. Legacy of Kain does a far better job at portraying an old dialect that also sounds actually good.
Okay.
Sure, Jan.
Oh my gosh. And then the next one that I had, I thought I only grabbed 3, but he says, it's another 4 out of 10 by Xenius. Seriously, guys, this is not a new franchise whatsoever. This is everything in Dark Souls pretty much reused under the guise of something new. It feels outdated and clunky. Go play Horizon to find out what a brilliantly done open world looks like, because Elden Ring ain't it.
That's the problem. They're a Sony fanboy. Okay. I got it.
Go play a wildly different game experience.
Yeah. Also,
find out what I like better.
Since Demon Souls, you could say that it's been a reusing of the same kind of concept. So
yeah, they're a very iterative studio.
Yeah. But...
All right. So Dylan got that point.
Yep.
Might read these. I feel like these are all going to give it away. So maybe this one won't be as much. This one was just 2 out of 10 by Chris M. UK.
I like the fact that they're not just going straight for one. I like.
I went into this game after seeing it was Game of the Year. The cutscenes are great, don't get me wrong. However, I don't play games to simply watch a movie. I walked around doing quests for a bit, tried the battle, and I didn't think the turn-based combat that had a top-down view matched the game. In fact, I would go as far as to call it annoying.
Baldur's Gate
Then you
3.
Yes, Baldur's Gate 3. Then you have dialogue.
Stop zooming out. You can zoom in. It's not top down.
Then you have dialogue that takes ages to get past. The only reason why I can see this got Game of the Year is either
this damn RPG's got too much talking in it. What's going on?
Either votes were paid for or people voted for the nudity parts, in which case that's just sad.
Entered turn-based combat and went, oh no, wait, I gotta get it in before Dylan.
Yep. The top-down threw me off. I was like, is the Final Fantasy remake top-down? No?
Yeah. These, I had so much. Okay, so then we had a 4 out of 10 by 4Yeah5H1. And he said, first of all, I want to say that I haven't finished this game. I spent 60 hours, reached third act, and can't do a blank cause of some choices and underleveling. But, and the punctuation is just crazy in this one, but fighting is terrible, like really terrible. Plot is not interesting. Small amount of side quests. Half of characters are just boring. Their lines bad and pretty stupid sometimes. Atmosphere and music not good. This game is a must play, but not for me. I enjoyed it a little, but not much.
Like, I can understand some people not vibing with the turn-based combat that is essentially D&D. To accuse it of the story being not good, wild.
Yeah, the characters being boring or like the ambiance not hitting, like that's
which everything is subjective. There is no objectivity in video games because you can't be objective about art. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like
you can't be 100% right, but you can be 100% wrong.
Yeah.
Well, Dylan, here's one for you because it's a 0 out of 10 by whom cares.
Yes. I love the fact, like everyone else, it's like,
0.
I put some thought into this score. 0 out of 10, no thought went into that score. It was just, I hated this.
And they said, if you like the Dungeons and Dragons style of combat, the game is fine. But for people that are looking to play an actual RPG, this is a giant middle finger you won't realize until well after the refund period. Torrent games to play them first to see if they're worth your money, or you risk paying for something you may very well hate, and you can always pay for it after if you do enjoy them.
Okay, but what's the refund period?
It's usually like 2
like
hours.
An hour.
How are you not getting to combat by 2 hours in? Well, character creation, I guess.
But also, like, what's a real RPG?
Yeah, what's an actual RPG?
Nobody knows.
Like Fallout.
No one knows what a real RPG is.
Halo?
All right. Let's see if maybe I can stump you on this next one.
Okay.
3 out of 10 by Two Side. Good game for masochists. People love pain or they have huge free time. This game only has 2 to 3 hours content, but you need to grind 20 hours.
Is this World of Warcraft?
This is not World of Warcraft.
Is this Hades?
This is Hades.
Wow, nice.
I was like, gotta grind 20 hours, so probably a roguelike? Well, the only roguelike I know is apparently Mystery Dungeon and Hades, so...
So then we had another 0 out of 10 by Fair123. They said, Hades is a horrible game, and here is why. First, the story is so poor, I can watch a series instead of that. Second, the voice acting is so bad. The only good thing is the gameplay. There are a lot of problems in this game. Many characters have black skin like Athena and Ares. Even the bosses are easy. There is no difficulty.
Jeez.
I'm not racist, but why do they have this? Note, the voice acting like you are talking to schoolmates or something similar. I don't feel the power in their voice. The bosses need 2 tries only or 3 to defeat them. This is why they are easy.
You just wearing your racism on your sleeve there, buddy.
Yeah, here's a little secret. If you have to put in your 0 out of 10 review, I'm not racist, but you're probably about to be a bigot.
If your complaint about a game is the color of the character's skin of the made
What cracked me up about
skin.
that, aside from the fact that, that's just what they're writing down in their review, but the sentence structure of there are a lot of problems in this game. Many characters have black skin, and then goes on to even the bosses are easy. There is no difficulty. Then in parentheses after that says, I am not racist, but why do they do like he talks about the skin, then the boss difficulty, then goes
I'm
back.
not racist, but why are the bosses so easy?
Yeah, exactly. It was like just so, and again, maybe it's an English thing, but I was still like,
it's like a total stream of
one-
consciousness. We're not going to edit this sentence at all.
Yeah.
no.
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that this guy not going to buy Assassin's Creed Shadows. So
Probably not.
Oh
Which
my God.
Doesn't affect me whatsoever.
Right.
nope.
And this next review was the start of a little trend that I really enjoyed reading as I was going through these, where we have a 0 out of 10 by Nimbus 1701. And they said, it is as good as they say, has high replay, encourages experimentation and new tactics. It will also probably get you reading up on Greek history.
Why'd you rate it 0 then?
It's like people that don't understand how the website works. They just like
he
write
put
a
in
review.
put in 10, but like he left his cursor in the box, and so like was scrolling down to try to
Right.
type, and it scrolled all the way to 0.
Yeah. The best part is I mentioned that as a trend, so it doesn't just happen once. It happens consistently. All right, the next game I have 0 out of 10 by Mega Good.
Mm.
It's not for everyone, and I get why it's polarizing. I love the bizarreness of the world, the lore, the skill progression, the Metroidvania elements. As you power up, it just becomes so satisfying, and I really couldn't get enough of the plot. Great level design in general, although some areas are too generic and you get lost. Give it a few hours and see whether it hooks you. If it doesn't, it probably won't. But if it does, you're in for a fun time. That was a 0 out of 10 review.
Hollow Knight?
Not Hollow Knight.
Polarizing.
Play a few hours and see if it hooks you. If it does.
Yeah. You're in for a fun time.
But torrent it first so you can pay for it later.
Yeah. Totally.
Famous.
Totally going to pay for this later.
Famous for going back and paying for things later is those who sail the pirate bay.
Yeah. Hollow Knight was my guess too, so I don't know.
All right, I can move on to the next review.
No, I'm going to what's the Horizon? I'm going to do Horizon Zero Dawn.
For the
Okay, Horizon Zero
Metroidvania.
Dawn is not correct.
I'm not buying that the person who rated a game 0 out of 10 and said it might be a pretty fun time knows what a Metroidvania is. So
Next, we have a 4 out of 10 by Maddie C96. They said, the puzzles in this game are incredibly dense. You will never figure them out without using a guide. Solutions don't feel organic. You will walk away from this game wondering how anyone was supposed to figure that out. Beyond that, the story is convoluted, and pretentious, even for a Kojima fan. The destruction and special effects is top-notch. Unfortunately, not enough to redeem this game for me.
Death Stranding?
Not Death Stranding.
Oh, it was convoluted. They're a Kojima fan, not that maybe the game was made by Kojima. Can we guess more than one time between reviews?
I mean,
Or
I
should
would have
we-
said no since you've been knocking them out of the park up to this point, but
I'm going to guess God of War, like the new one, 2018.
it is not God of War.
Because I had another.
I'll read-
I had a guess before the Kojima one threw me off, but now I've forgotten what that guess is. So
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, then I will read the last review and maybe it'll come to you. 2 out of 10 by II Hacker II.
Mm.
First of all, this is nothing compared to Alan Wake.
first of all,
Well, this is one of the worst games I have ever played in a while. Ignore the high
I don't know what
ratings.
game
This
is.
game has poor map guide, reused assets, poor story writing, very effing slow upgrade system. Gosh, I finished the game and still haven't finished half of my upgrades. Weapon upgrades are stupid and silly, gives you a headache. They just throw you in different offices and just spawn the same enemies all over again. Literally everything is dull about this game. I just enjoyed 10% out of the whole game. Plus, it gets frustrating sometimes due to too much enemies spawning at the same time. Game feels hollow and unfinished. Gosh, even for a PS Plus game, it's too much. Glad I didn't buy it at launch day. That's all.
Gosh.
He says the F word and then starts going, gosh.
This is Control.
This is Control.
Yeah.
Which
Alan Wake
I will
movie.
throw out there. I knew you had played this game, but I almost picked Control because I wanted to talk about it and I wanted Aubrey to play it. So,
Cause say if we continue to do the like game swap thing, we may just have to start calling audibles like that, or
yeah,
being like, you play this and you play this, because like Aubrey mentioned, the overlap is
It's fierce.
mm-hmm.
a little trickier. All right, the final game, 0 out of 10 by Max Robot ENGR. I don't know. My favorite blank game, quite possibly my favorite game of all time. The darker tone and dramatic story work amazing, and the graphics are stellar for a blank launch title. It has some of the most interesting dungeons and items that don't reappear in the series. Even the motion controls work well. I don't know why I blanked the console and then read motion controls, but
0 out of 10.
0 out of 10. Is that the whole review?
Yep,
Twilight Princess.
Breath of the Wild.
it is Twilight Princess.
Ah. Yeah.
Then we had another 0 out of 10 by Soul X00. Overrated Zelda game. Story got ruined at the end because they had to shove in Ganon. Overworld is garbage. So many boring fetch quests in the main story and super toxic community.
Okay. Super toxic communities throw me for a loop here, but also how many games into the Twilight or the Legend of Zelda series is Twilight Princess? And in what, like all of them you fought Ganon? So like,
Yeah.
That was
it shouldn't.
that was a complaint a lot of people had though about it, because for a lot of the game it was Zant. And then it was like, oh yeah, Zant gets his power from Ganondorf, and now you gotta fight Ganondorf for half an hour. Like,
But also, like Dylan said, I think most Zelda games have like a puppet villain before ultimately revealing Ganon.
that's
Like
true.
Skyward Sword.
No, Twilight Princess is the only one I've ever beaten besides Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. But like you were saying, you always fight Ganon.
Yeah.
And I think a similar trend is that there's always like they come up with an interesting enemy for like their own creative, like they're like, we want to make a new enemy, but then ultimately it's Ganon. Like Skyward Sword had that weirdo guy that you fought in it. And I mean, even Wind Waker, Ganon was just like disguised.
Yeah, I was gonna say Wind Waker. I haven't beaten, but like I don't remember Ganon being a big presence in that game. Like it was some bird and like a dragon and
Yeah, well, Ganon is like he's masquerading as like the leader of the bandits or whatever, and then you find out that it is actually Ganondorf or whatever through the course of the game. But
spoilers, how dare you?
yeah, 0 out of 10 by Better Nick. In all caps.
Oh.
I freaking hate this game. Everything about it makes my blood boil. Why couldn't they have just made Wind Waker 2?
Wow.
And they hated Wind Waker so much when it came out.
I'm sure this guy didn't, and I'm sure he reminds everybody that he liked it before everybody else.
Before everybody looked back on it when
Why?
Because raging about Twilight Princess because they didn't make a sequel to Wind Waker is a very like hipster, he has the underdog opinion and he's mad about it kind of vibe. Like,
yeah.
I think
why didn't they make a game specifically for me?
I was gonna say I think most people were excited about the like tone of Twilight Princess when it was announced, especially coming off Wind Waker, and then Wind Waker people like they came around on over time. So
yeah, I mean Wind Waker holds up really well. The cell shading was kind of cutesy, but it also helps it to not age as harshly as some of the more like sort of realistic looking ones.
Yeah, Twilight Princess looks way worse than Wind Waker now.
It's super blurry on an HD TV.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Dylan, you ended up winning that with 3 out of which, I mean, that's pretty close.
I know.
Yeah,
2 to 3.
It's a close game.
So, all right. Well, let's move into some housekeeping. What's going on YouTube, Dylan?
I don't know. This is coming out in like 3 months. You pull up this schedule here. You can cut this out or leave it in. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't do it for you.
Let's see. We haven't planned this far out. I have no idea what's going on. Some videos are up, I guess.
Hopefully, yeah.
Good things are going on.
Yeah. So I'll just give a general. So we've got videos that come out every other week. We've been doing a lot of just kind of looks into, various games that we've played that aren't going to probably get their own episode, or at the very least, we're not planning on maybe like doing a full episode on them. Maybe it's a game that like just one of us has played or something like that, but that we wanted to talk about, but it didn't really fit into like a full episode, and it, deserved maybe a little bit more of a focus on it than we would give it on like a neighborhood watch. So if that sounds interesting, if you like hearing us talk about video games and you want to see more from us, but maybe in a little bit shorter form of content, check out our YouTube channel. Also, if you're watching this episode of the podcast on YouTube, leave us a comment about how you think these games are going to go and play. Maybe like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you are not subscribed. That always helps. Mm-hmm. All of those things that, everybody always asks for on, a video or a podcast or whatever. We're not just asking because we have to. We ask because it helps us out.
Yeah, and I know for myself on YouTube recently, I've been trying to kind of focus in on making videos on those like AA kind of experiences that we talked about a little bit earlier. And like my kind of niche is the Souls-like games. So been focusing in on that with what I've been doing, games that you may not be able to find as much information or as many big reviews from some of the bigger outlets. So that's where I've been honing in. So if you're enjoying that, let us know. Comment helps a lot. On the podcast, we theoretically just came off of our spooky month of content where we were doing Halloween themed episodes and content. Hopefully that went really well and everybody enjoyed it and it got lots of downloads. And upcoming wise, we have the rest of the game swap. And then once the game swap is over, we'll be moving in towards the end of the year where we do all of our game awards and Fantasy Critic recaps and all that good stuff that we do every year and our predictions, results and stuff. So it's an exciting time.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Got episode 150 coming up soon. Are we doing questions or something? We could probably throw a little like reminder blurb in about that if we are.
Yeah, we will stay tuned for that. We'll probably do something for episode 150. Yeah. We just haven't nailed down exactly what that is yet.
Yeah.
Anything we do on episode 150 will be done through Discord. So if you want to be included in that, check out our Discord, join our Discord.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, we did that for episode 100 and I thought it worked pretty well. So, Aubrey, anything else that we missed? Anything that we need to cover in housekeeping?
Not podcast related, but lately brands have been rebranding. Instead of saying that they contain xylitol, they say it contains birch sugar, and that is equally toxic for your pets as the sugar alcohol xylitol. So if you're looking to give your dog, like, say, a pill in peanut butter and it says birch sugar, that is toxic to your dogs. So don't do it.
Okay.
It's
good to know.
I've elected myself.
You're just going to be like
PSA
the random
corner.
PSA person. Yeah. Hey, that works.
The
Shticks help. Shticks, running jokes. Yeah, we need more of that around here. But that is it for our introductory episode into this Game Swap month. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you're looking forward to the rest of the episodes as much as we are. I can't wait to talk about my equal amount of time spent in Pokemon Red Rescue Team and Yakuza Like a Dragon. With all that being said,
so much lead time.
Yeah. With all that being said, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.